It's funny.
Did you say it smells funny?
I think so.
Hello, everybody! What's my hair doing?
It's okay. Your hair can do whatever it wants.
Hey, guys.
It's a weekend, y'all.
Cheers to the freaking weekend. I drank to that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Let's go. Let's start a podcast.
Let's do a little podcast.
Let's do a podcast. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go.
6, 7, 8, and 1.
Welcome to episode number 0012 of Back in the Closet with the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. How are you guys?
Oh my God.
Welcome. Let's start with the Hey Marissa.
Hey Marissa. It's been a while, girl. Okay.
Let's start with the cheers.
Let's start with the cheers.
Cheers
yes,
to
Lord.
the freaking weekend. I drank
It's almost
to
over.
that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, let the Jameson sink and I drank
I would
to
dare you
that.
to drink some Jameson right now.
I would drink some Jameson right now.
What?
I'm almost wined out. Guys, okay, so let's keep it real. I'm a little fuzzy today because we drank a bit. I drank too much wine last night. I just poured out my rosé.
What?
Yeah, because this is organic wine.
And she's thinking it's going to make her feel better.
I think that the organic wine is just going to make me feel better.
Dana, Lindsay. Hey, y'all.
Oh, it's not bad. It's kind of sweet, but not
Really?
bad. Yeah.
I can't do one.
Yeah.
Not today.
So right now, I almost feel like just like a nice Jameson would be
Just a little hair of the dog.
helpful. A little hair of the dog, yeah. I'd
Yeah.
probably do a shot of it. Oh, no, I'd throw up. Never mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, guys. Okay, so thanks for joining us here for our podcast called Back in the Closet
Back in
with
the
the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. If you guys don't know who we are, we don't either today.
We're a little fuzzy.
Yeah. So sorry about that. You don't get an intro.
Maybe you could tell us.
Yeah, please tell us. Please just tell us who we are. Cause we don't know. And it's kind of warm here in this closet too.
It's getting warm.
How is your light? Your light is shorter than mine. Why is mine?
Dana's still baking. Girl, you got a marathon going on in that kitchen today.
A baking marathon.
Sarah. Oh my God,
Okay.
you guys. So today we wanted to talk about
Our favorite subject. Our favorite subject in all the land. And that is cat food. Cat food, because cat food is cat food does. Cat food is
fundamental to health.
It's so fundamental.
It's like foundational.
To our cats, guys.
Foundational. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Fundamental, foundational.
Yeah.
Same.
Same.
Not to say that, if you like your cats, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. But
there's going to be a lot of that today.
There's going to be a lot of that today, guys. I'm going to be a little bit off and out of the
It's entertaining today watching her look for words in her head. She's looking.
And I usually just don't find them and then move on to the next subject in my head, which is just random. But we're so happy to be here. For those of you guys that are listening in, we're also on YouTube Live.
Hey, yo!
Which we love because we love everybody that, oh my God, all of our awesome girls are up here joining us. And Zorro is now joining us. He
loves to snuggle.
Our sweet Black Panther.
Yes.
He's the sweetest boy. And lately he's just needed a lot of extra attention, don't you think? Hey.
What?
He's
being so precious. Hey, Teresa. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about cat food and doing our best to keep it simple because cat food is so foundational for health. You know what? For ourselves, it's the what?
KISS rule. Keep
it simple, stupid. Look at you blowing up the acronyms. What?
I'm going to hit you back in a minute.
Y'all, though, but it's something that's so fundamental for us, for our health, and we know this, right?
Right.
It's also just so fundamental for our cat's health. And we were talking about this. We were talking about it with Emma.
Yeah,
and we had talking about it with.
We had an awesome meeting with a gal from
sweet gal
from England that formulates pet foods. And cat foods is one of them. And she actually does it for companies. And she's going to be giving us some recipes to share with you guys right here on YouTube. Where we had a great conversation because we wanted to try to figure out how to keep it simple. One, keep it cheap. Two, but also
keep it healthy.
But also keep it healthy. So we all know that food is the foundation of life, right? We're either with ourselves and with our cats, we're either giving our bodies something good or we're not, right?
Like that whole
or we're giving them something not good.
School of food is medicine, right? Like there's and
in many cases it is. You don't want any wine, baby. In many cases, the food is medicine. Right. So it is because it's what keeps our bodies nourished. And the thing is nourished. But the thing is with our cats is they don't know what food is other than what we feed them. Right.
They don't have choices. They don't get to make choices.
Yeah. And the issue that we found out long ago is that because of the marketing out there, because of the way that pet food came around, as we can use all of these restaurants. They still do this, guys. All of the restaurants, all of the roadkill, all of the disease, dying, decayed.
They call it 4D meats, like disease, dying, decayed, and dead.
Or something like that. Yeah. Meats that are in like the butcher or whatever. If it not butcher, what are slaughterhouses? They take all the good pieces of meat and they say, okay, we're going to sell that to the restaurant. And then the parts that they can't, or the meat that shows up that's dying or decayed, they send that off to pet food companies, right?
Right. And it's not just slaughterhouses. I mean, this is where you get.
No, my dad used to. It was roadkill.
Roadkill, or at a farm, where they have livestock that is passed on.
Yeah.
It's really a remarkable thing. Google Earth actually, Susan Thixton, wasn't it Susan Thixton that shared that post of Google Earth images of rendering plants, really where our pet food comes from. And not to get too far off topic, because this is about trying to keep it as simple as possible. Basically,
right, but we got to understand why we want to keep it
right.
What we want to
basically what we know of as pet food, or what we fed as cat food. Like you go to any market and you can get a bag of cat food. And that's what you feed your cats as cat food.
You can get Meow Mix for like under $5 in a bag.
No, depending on the size of the bag.
Right.
I used to get 40-pound bags for
like $10 probably.
$10, and it would last me like a month, and it was awesome, right?
Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay, so cats are cheap, and that's what we feed them. But what we don't realize, and more people are starting to realize this more, but that this is not what our cats should be eating, and this is why we're seeing this onset of
epidemic of a number of health issues.
Of kidney disease and diabetes and obesity. Over 60% of our cats in the U.S. alone are obese.
I think 2 of ours are.
2? Oh, Mr. Twister.
Mr. Twister's starting to get a belly.
But I mean, and as exercise and other things have stuff to do with it. Hey, Michelle.
She's so gross. Yeah,
but it's true. My dad used to work in one of those plants, and he literally, my mom had to hose him off, and he had to get undressed in the garage before he even came in the house. And even then, he smelled so bad that it still stunk up the house just from what was being absorbed through his skin. Like he was the most disgusting. It was the most disgusting smell.
And when you go, when I would go out to West Tennessee to visit her family when we lived in Knoxville, there is a stretch of road that's like 20 miles where you can hardly breathe. Like when we would go to visit, and that was the plant that her dad worked at, and it was like I would look for alternate routes to see if there was any way.
And there's not,
because you could hardly breathe. It is just such gross, disgusting death.
It was just the thing. Every time we drove through there, it was growing up. Like, every time you're going through there, it's like, here we go, hold your breath. Or plug your nose. Yeah. Like whatever.
I mean, you would try to just breathe in your shirt. It was
and that's in your car with the windows closed.
Right.
And miles away from the actual facility.
There. Right.
And my dad worked there.
So
what we're saying is that what we're feeding really matters. But the knowledge of what we're feeding is why this is so important, because we have to understand where all of this processed pet food, these big billion-dollar brands are actually sourcing their ingredients, what we're actually putting into our cats' bodies.
Right.
So we say, so we feed a species-appropriate fresh food diet to our cats, And we encourage everybody else to do that as well. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can do that, but today we want to talk about keeping it really
simple.
Yeah.
And to preface all of this by saying, we know what it's like to be on a budget or to have a circumstance where we only have one option, right? And the bottom line always is a fed cat is always better than a starving cat.
Right.
So that's where we start.
Yeah.
But from there are so many simple things that we can do once we recognize the significance of a fresh food diet for a fresh species appropriate,
or just what fresh food does, right? And let's keep this really simple, right? We know that eating a salad is better than eating a taco from Taco Bell. As much as we prefer sometimes
a soft taco with extra hot sauce.
There you go.
And a little bit of Baja.
You never know. I don't think they have Baja sauce anymore.
They call it spicy ranch, but it's the same thing.
She's very well versed at Taco Bell, as I call toxic hell. But it is really good sometimes, especially after you've had too many to drink, too many glasses of wine. But we all know that a fresh diet, something that we eat that's fresh, a salad, is going to be better for our bodies. Yet we don't even think about that when it comes to feeding our cats. And we did it for many years.
That I wanted to mention that we were talking about with Emma, and that we were talking about as well, is that so many times when it comes to our cats, most people come to us when they're in a terrible situation. A lot of people come to us, or feels like a lot,
and it's on the daily basis. Right. This is what we do.
So this is the topic that we're choosing today because it is never a hopeless situation if your kitty is dealing with something that's very acute or even chronic, but definitely infringing on their quality of life.
Right.
It's never too late to start doing something
to prevent those things from happening.
Right. But even to help that situation, right? Like we learned that the hard way with Scotch. I was very reluctant to feed a fresh food diet because I was scared of raw food, feeding our cats raw meat, even though I got the science of it, that's how our cats are made to eat. That's
we weren't scared. Food. We weren't scared if they caught a bird and started tearing into it. We weren't worried then. But
I was very reluctant to do that until he was diagnosed with kidney disease. And they told us that he had basically 6 months and to put him on a prescription diet, which we knew enough about the the pet food industry to not put him on a prescription diet, which is basically a trademark term for still less than quality food.
Correct.
And that was the catalyst, though, for us to finally start feeding fresh. He was transitioned within a week. Mm-hmm. The rest of our babies took a little bit longer. Pooh Bear took the longest at 6 months, but it made such a huge difference to start looking at what our babies biologically require.
What their bodies need. And going back to like food is medicine, because it's what's nourishing our body. So when it comes to cat food, when it comes to feeding our cats, if we feed them, so budget is the biggest thing, right? Everybody says budget and texture. Yeah. Everybody says, my cat won't eat anything but kibble. And my cat likes Purina or, Meow Mix or whatever. I think they're both owned by the same company. But that's what they're not. Mars owns Meow Mix. Yeah. All the cat and Nestle owns Purina. It's all the candy bar companies that own our cat foods. Right. But that it's because that's what we've taught them is food. And so what we have to do is reteach them what is food. Now, I'm not saying we have to all keeping it simple. I'm not saying that we need to turn our diet like for us even, right? Like we don't it's not that you can never have a pizza again. Good. You have to only eat salad for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's keep it, let's give them as much as possible. Let's not just feed them pizza, right? Let's not just eat pizza. Let's instead feed them a little bit. And budget is not an issue with this, right? If you as a person make food, and if you're scared of raw, then cook it, like whatever. Lightly cook it. But if you eat food, if you prepare food at home, and it's not all just in a can or in a box, then you can share some of that with your cat, and that is just a little bit of add-on to give your cat a little bit more. Cats survived for so many years. Cats and dogs survived so many years just from table scraps. Yeah, that's before pet food came around. Before pet food came around and became this multi-billion-dollar industry. Yeah. That's all they had.
Well, this is our food. Quick shout out to if you guys haven't seen this documentary, it's a short documentary. I'm not exactly sure where you can find it now, but it's called Pet Fooled. FOOLED. And it really talks about the pet food industry.
It's on Prime.
Michelle, you're exactly right. They really do try to keep it secret. It's not like they're super proud of how they source their foods. But today, really focusing on some of the simple ways that we can add fresh into their diet, and understanding that while we have so many people that come to us when they are dealing with a really terrible situation, now they want to know what they can do. It's such a powerful thing, and we know this from experience because we didn't do this proactively initially. But it's such a powerful thing when we can start looking at the nutrition proactively. So many people are like, well, I don't want to change my budget or my routine or whatever, because they're fine. Yep. But cats are especially stoic. So a lot of times we don't know something is wrong until it's very wrong. And so the things that we can do proactively to give our babies a quality, health-filled, happy life is really exciting. And nutrition is, I think, fundamentally one of the very first, the biggest thing that we can look at. So if we're going from a total, like we did, we went from a totally kibble diet to understanding to understanding that moisture is important and starting to add in. But we fed wet food as treats, kind of.
We fed so we started pet food and the pet nutrition industry back in 2005, right? So it's been 15 years. That's crazy.
Wow.
We started in the pet nutrition industry back in 2005, and we were learning the power of supplements. We learned what type of pet foods, where the foods come from, and things like that. Even though my dad worked in one of these plants, I didn't even have a pet at the time, and I did not correlate what that is. I knew he made pet food, but I didn't have that correlation. I was like 18, and I didn't have I didn't
connect the dots.
I didn't connect the dots until I got into the pet nutrition industry. And then I realized, and I was like, oh yeah, my dad used to work at one of those plants. Yeah, I get where this food is coming from, and that's gross. And it's 100% disgusting.
Oh.
If you ever went into one of those plants and saw what goes through those processors, and not all of it is food, right? They can call it food, but sometimes it's tarps, sometimes it's scissors. Like my dad can tell you, because
the stuff that they just let go through. Like they couldn't stop the auger from going
the stuff in
because it was so expensive. So if a dead diseased cow came in a tarp, that tarp went in. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
Dana said Pet Food is on Prime now.
Yeah,
thank you, Dana. That's fantastic. And Ariel said making our own food has been way less money than the kibble for us. A month's worth of wet food for 2 cats costs us less than $30 a month. Best part, they are thriving.
Yes, exactly.
Ariel,
that's beautiful. Yeah, and that's 100%. And that's why we're coming out with more recipes, guys. We're going to be coming out with a lot, at least one a month this year now, starting in March.
For options.
For options and for budget options, right? Yeah. So one, adding a little bit of the chicken that you're making or the turkey that you're making, some kind of meat usually. You could also give veggies and things like that if they like it. But
small amount of veggies.
Yeah, small amount. Let's stick mostly to the meats, because our cats are obligate carnivores. Yeah, so they need to eat meat.
Hey, and quick question from Sarah. Speaking of meat, I eat ground turkey over beef. Is that so? We're talking about just the foods that we make for ourselves being appropriate for our cats. So Sarah's saying I eat ground turkey over beef. Is that okay for the kitties, or is beef better?
No, okay. So every different meat has a benefit. It all has different benefits.
It has a different nutritional profile,
right? So I wouldn't say that any are better than the other. However, there are certain meats like poultry. If we're talking about chicken or turkey, they are a little bit more inflammatory. But if that's what your cat's going to eat, and that's the only fresh food that they get, yeah, I give it to them.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
And also to mention that we're big advocates, we're big fans of variety for our cats.
Yeah.
So we have our Mr. Biddles right now is showing some signs of anemia. So we're trying to incorporate more red meats like beef and venison into his diet. And he's not always a huge fan. So we'll mix it in with rabbit because he loves rabbit, but that's more of a lighter meat. But just to give him, different proteins have different nutritional profiles, but it's also wonderful. We can feed a variety, and bottom line, feed them whatever they'll eat.
Yeah. And if it's fresh, it's always better. A fresh turkey is going to be 100 times better than the, duck, whatever kibble that you give them. Yeah. The high quality, really
duck flavored kibble.
Well, no, I mean, they even make, they make really exotic meat kibbles.
No, that's true.
And so, and That's what we fed when we learned about we switched to a better kibble before we realized that it's not just the pet food companies, but it's what we're giving our cats just in general. It's the food that they're eating and the way that it's processed. It might be, I don't know, Panera's processed food, right?
Well, Panera's more on the fresh side, and they said that they're trying to stay more fresh, but then I heard that they were bought out by somebody.
So
and
who knows? My comparison here is like, getting a sandwich from McDonald's is probably worse than getting a sandwich from Panera.
Right.
But they're both still processed, and it'd still be better if you just made something at home. So we're coming out with more recipes. Right. We're super excited about that. But in the meantime, do just add like a little bit of fresh to the bowl.
Let's talk about specifically what that means.
Yeah. Okay.
So keep it simple.
Okay. Simple. I have a 2-minute video on YouTube, and it's almost like one of those tasty videos.
Right. Like how to, where she just shows the bowl. Video,
show the bowl. I went to the market that day. This is when we were starting. So we take you guys with us on our journey. And so it was before we fed a fully fresh diet, I think. But we were like, okay, this is how you do it. Let's start by, I'm at the market. I'm going to get some meat. Now we tend to get better quality stuff. We look for the bargain when it comes to our stuff, and we go for the organic, whatever stuff when it comes to our cats. And we're cooking it, and they're going to eat it raw. But we went I was at the market. I was like, going to pick up this. Looks really good. It was actually on sale. So I was like, this looks really good. I'm going to add this to their canned food. Now, this is already switching over from kibble to canned, but you don't even have to make that step. We made that step just because we know our cats.
That's where we were at.
And that we knew that they already liked wet food. So it was kind of an easy transition from from kibble to canned. But made a little how-to video, cut up that meat, put it in little, small kitty size containers or Ziploc bags, put it in the freezer, take it out, thaw it out, and not in the microwave. But mix it in with their wet food and feed it to them. Now they're getting all the smells and flavors and everything the same when it comes to their wet food, and it's balanced, but we're adding a little fresh into that bowl. So now they're starting to get that flavor. They're starting to smell it. They are associating it with food because it's mixed with their food that they already know as food. And then we slowly started decreasing the wet and started incorporating a fully balanced fresh food raw diet.
Right. And I think let's just take a little side note on that. The fully balanced, complete and balanced for cats means that they do have certain nutrients, vitamins, minerals that are really important for them that they do get on their own if they were to have their own species appropriate diet. But that's basically because I know he's ridiculous. Can you try to? So look at his little paw.
His paws are stretched out.
Oh my God. And he's sound asleep.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
We just had a kitty moment.
Always a kitty moment.
It's always a pussy moment.
But complete and balanced. So it's going to be important, which is why we don't consider ourselves formulators when it comes to fresh food diets at all. We are not qualified to do that. We
studied for a year.
Yes.
Trying to do
and
this.
Still feel super insecure about it.
We just don't feel secure.
So it's always important, whatever diet that we're feeding our cats, even right now, wherever you're at, make sure that on the bag, on the can, whatever you're feeding, that it says complete and balanced. Because even some wet foods out there will say intended as a treat.
Yeah, or an intermittent feeding. Intermittent
feedings. Intermittent. You know what we mean. But it means that it's not a fully complete and balanced diet for our cats. So one way that is safe to do this is to start with whatever we're already feeding and start incorporating in some fresh food. And we know people that have gone straight from kibble to adding in just a little spoonful of raw to their wet. A big concern,
that's what we did
to their
first.
Dry. A big concern for a lot of people is wasting money. So it's always going to be important to not thaw out a pound of whatever you're planning on feeding. That's why we'll take our foods.
That's why I say do it while you're making yours, right? If you're making spaghetti tonight, you're putting turkey in your bolognese, then take just thaw it out, the way that you would thaw it out, and then just take like a chunk of that over to the side and then cook the rest for you. Even if it's a spoonful, let's add. Do you know that the studies show?
Oh, I love
that.
This study.
I love this study that adding just a 20%, so literally taking 20% of that kibble away and replacing it with fresh food reduces the risk of disease by up to 90%.
Disease markers come down.
90%.
Almost 90%.
Yes. And cancer specifically even.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But think about it. Diabetes or obesity, just the amount of diseases that are caused by obesity in general. It's a big deal. Marissa said, I know there are videos for recipes, but is there a place that has links to that? Or that is readable for the supplements that we need to add in?
Yeah. So, Marissa, you can go on our YouTube channel here. You can actually go to our, we have a playlist. Click on our playlist. It'll say homemade DIY cat food, our journey or something like that. And when you click on that, I think it was like one of the last videos we've made, it said beefing it up, I think is the name. We called it beefing it up or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, and that was made by Ronnie, and there's actually a link there where you can click the PDF and print it out yourself, and so you have all the like ingredients, and then you just depending on the specific recipe, the ones we're about to come out with. One of the requests that we had is let's make all of the ingredients very accessible because sometimes, some of these recipes, it's like, where am I going to find that?
Whatever shellfish, whatever.
Yeah. And it's even hard for us to find them. But, and then if you are doing the full on DIY, which guys, that's going to be the cheapest way, no matter what food you're feeding. It's going to be, unless you're feeding a cheap bag of Meow Mix. If you want your cat to live along healthy and thrive in life, this is the best, in my opinion, the best way to feed your cats. We don't even do it. We do it, but we don't do it consistently. We purchase our raw food for the most part. But making it at home means that you're 100% in control of the ingredients. That means where the food's coming from.
Where you're sourcing the food from.
Right. And
you can talk to your butcher about where this comes from.
And you can even start going down, once you get used to it, you can start going down in prices very easily. Yeah. So you're already saving a hell of a lot of money. And all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I can contact, or you talk to somebody in town and they're like, oh, you could get that cheaper at the butcher shop than at, Walmart or Whole Foods even, or wherever it is that you shop, the healthy market. You can start making relationships with a certain butchers, which we've done now, and sometimes you can get the shit for free. You can get like the organ meat that is needed. The offal.
The offal.
The offal.
It's the organ meats that need to go in to provide those special things that are.
But you can get that sometimes even for free because nobody's going to buy it. They're not going to sell it. They're usually just throw it away.
Yeah.
Or send it to a pet store, but or a pet food company, or they'll give it to you for pennies
on the dollar. Yeah. It's really fantastic. I think some of the things though too, when we're thinking about starting to add in fresh food, for me, one of the biggest things to adjust to, Jay's always been all about, going as awesome natural as possible. I am someone who has a hard time emotionally dealing with the fact that the cats still want kibble, or you know what I mean? Like, because if that we called Pooh Bear like the kibble crack addict, because you would make the sound of a kibble bag.
A kibble addict. We didn't call it a kibble crack addict. But yeah, kind of.
Right. And that's all he wanted. And he would protest and be stubborn about eating his wet food or his raw food.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that it's not healthy to fast our pets. Like if they're not eating for more than 24 hours, we need to feed them whatever they're going to eat.
Yeah.
But the other things too to keep in mind are that feeding fresh is much different than taking a scoop of kibble and throwing it down for them. It takes more time, and we had friends over last night.
Convenience, I think, is really the main thing.
Yeah, it's inconvenient. And I'm going to say that just
inconvenient, but it's
when we put it on the list of priorities, like, is it a priority to spend the next 40 minutes or however long it may take us to feed the cats at night, washing the bowls and getting their fresh food up to mouse temperature where they like it. It's an adjustment, which I think is just
but
important
when you add that
to
into
be
your
prepared for.
Yeah.
Right? To be looking at that. And the time aspect of DIY. And that's part of the reason why we purchase a lot of our foods now is because we don't always have time.
A good amount. Well, no, we just haven't put it in our schedule. We have the time. Right. We just have to make
That's the
time.
bonus, though,
but
of
that's
making
also
these
like
videos,
talking about DIY, not just keeping it simple and adding some of that to the bowl, right?
Right.
Because if we can reduce the risk of disease by 90% by simply not inconveniencing anything, then do that. And if you want your cat to have if you want to save money and have your cat have the best diet available, then you can just DIY it. Yeah. I just realized why your face is always brighter and lit up more than mine. And I was like, remember I said, I think the lighting is bad on my side.
Why?
It's because you're sitting in front of the whites and I'm sitting in front of the blues and blacks.
Oh, we should switch.
See, okay. No, we can't do that. I didn't make the logo.
Jay always makes us sit like that, even though
because
I consider this my better profile.
With our logo, I'm on the left and she's on the right. So
and
it's like, okay, we always have to sit that way.
Oh, Lindsay.
So that nobody ever,
I love you so much. Lindsay said this is such a great episode. I'm still scared of trying raw, but I know I need you. That's me, girl.
Little bit at a time,
the timing of this couldn't be more perfect for me. Thank you for all this info.
Good. Yeah. Lindsay, just take baby steps. Baby steps is all it takes. Let's just do a little bit. And then you start to feel a little bit more comfortable. You're like, oh my God, my cat didn't die. I gave him a spoonful of raw meat and he didn't die. And then you increase it a little bit more and you're like, and they're eating it? What?
Right. Like I said earlier, the real catalyst for us to finally switch to a fresh food diet was Scotch being diagnosed at 18 years old with kidney disease, basically being told he has 6 months and them telling us to put him on a prescription diet. And we were not going to do a prescription diet, but that was really the catalyst. Jay had been trying to move them over to raw food for a year. And I have to be honest with you, even with Scotch's diagnosis at that time, and even though we had spent a year and a half researching raw and understanding that it wasn't scary for our cats, that's what they're made to eat, I still could not have anything to do with it. I told Jay, you do this because I feel like you do this. Cats. I was so scared of it. Scotch was transitioned within a week, within a month. I saw a huge difference. And to this day, we had Scotch for almost another 4 full years after that. His kidney levels never increased. He stayed right where he was at. Yeah. We had 4 more years with him. And to this day, I keep thinking, I wish I would have started earlier. But I say that because baby steps, I understand the fear so much. And I to this day, I don't think the cats would be eating fresh if it weren't for Jay, because I was so scared of it. Yeah. So
Michelle actually, she does DIY, but she cooks for her cats. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Cook it. And Lindsay, if you're worried, or any of you guys that are out there listening to this podcast right now, which will be available on Apple and Spotify tomorrow.
Yeah.
For those of you guys that are worried about raw or scared of it, like she was, and we didn't do this at first, but you can cook it a little bit, that'll help you feel like most people are scared of raw because they're scared of salmonella and all E. coli and all of
terrible
the
things.
Bacteria that's in it. But if you cook it a little bit, then peace of mind, it's just going to help your brain make it feel better. And then just cook it a little bit less next time and a little bit less the next time. And then you'll see. And maybe you don't. Maybe you always cook.
Yeah.
Like maybe your cats just prefer cooked food. Okay. Don't prefer, but don't purr and fur.
Oh my God.
How cute is that?
That's real cute.
That is a cat word. Purr. Ha!
You heard it here,
just guys. What I did. Ha! Yeah.
Michelle said still 10,000% better than kibble or cat food.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Lindsay, she said, I really think it would help Luna's GI flares, but yes, I'm scared I'm going to kill them. LOL. That was so mean.
Lindsay. And you know what? For when there's a flare up for GI, I'm just going to throw in a little tip here. When there's a flare up for GI, take turkey meat, ground turkey, and cook that. and then put 50% pumpkin and 50% turkey. That really helps for a flare up of a GI, like an IBS or something like that.
It's super bland.
It's a bland diet, just plain turkey, no spices, no anything like that. Yeah. Just ground up some cooked turkey and pumpkin, not pumpkin pie mix, but pure canned pumpkin, 50-50. That's a good diet. It's not a balanced diet, but it is a diet that they can be on for a short amount of time to help that flare up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marissa said cats are only around for so long. And if we can maximize it by feeding them the right diet, it is so worth it. It is so true.
Oh, no. She can't have turkey or chicken or tuna or salmon. Oh, no.
Lindsay, we need to put you in touch with. Are you in touch with Pam?
Yeah, that's probably why she knows
that you probably know that there's food sensitivities.
Anyway, guys. We should wrap it up. You had something you were about to say earlier.
I was just pointing out that there's it's so important to really look at the nutrition that we give our cats. They don't choice, and we are their only option for nutritionally rich life and the health that comes with that. So it really took a lot, and again, probably would not be where we are today without your stubbornness.
Well, because I'm always right? I'm just always debatable.
Right. I just really encourage everyone.
I'm not always sober, but I'm always right.
That's closer to it.
You almost said correct.
Really close.
The only time I'm not right is when it comes to words, because I don't know how to use words very well.
Sometimes she says really funny words, but just to think about
and lyrics to songs.
That's always entertaining.
Yeah.
But to think about what we can do to be proactive with our cat's nutrition and the health that comes with that, and just giving them what their body needs, and to just start wherever we're at to think about it, and to start with super basic, wherever your comfort level is. But looking at simple ways that we can do that, and keeping in mind too,
doesn't have to be as complicated.
No, it doesn't. And the only thing though, the other additional thing I would keep in mind, especially when it comes to like Pooh Bear or cats that are kibble addicts, or if that's where you're starting from, is that perseverance is key.
Patience and perseverance is our little kitty ditty.
I joke that it was
perseverance pays. So if you put a spoonful of fresh meat, cooked or raw, whatever, into their wet food,
and they don't touch it,
or their kibble, and they don't touch it, okay. Now they're at least associating it with food. Yeah. So maybe put it beside the food. So they're still eating their food, but they're smelling while they're eating, and that's what makes them start to be like, okay, this is food, but be persistent about it.
Yeah.
And don't just be like, doesn't work. That's the number one thing we hear is cat won't eat raw. Okay. Eventually they will, but we have to. Studies show that, like the scientific studies that have been
actually been done on cats show that they will choose the more nutritional food over time.
Yes.
It is our responsibility to be as persistent and patient as possible. And for me, that was super difficult, because I would just be like, I just want to give them a little bit of kibble. I just want to give them a little bit of. So just be prepared emotionally for that yourself. That it could be. I joke that it was more difficult for me to transition them to wet than it was for Pooh Bear. Do you see him, you guys?
You can't see him.
Oh, you can't. No. He's got his head tucked.
And the problem is my leg
falling asleep. You know what you can do though is you can just lift him. He'll stay asleep and switch legs.
Okay, he's a sack of potatoes. We call him our sack of potatoes. Anyway, so let's go ahead and wrap this up, because we got stuff to do, things to see.
Yes, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
And let us know if you have follow-up questions too.
Yeah,
this
if you have any questions,
post
them here, or you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok. We are here on YouTube. Our website is twocrazycatladies.com. TWO crazycatladies.com. We have a chat program there. We have an email at info@twocrazycatladies.com. TWO crazycatladies.com. We try to say as accessible as possible to everybody. Yeah. So if you comment or reach out and we don't see it, guys, actually, let's do a shout out real quick. We had 100,000 followers on Facebook this week.
We sure did.
100,000.
That's a lot to us. It's a hundo.
I can't, baby.
Oh, poor boy. Her leg's almost gone.
Oh,
It's super exciting. So yeah, like next Saturday, we're going to be doing a big celebration on our Facebook page, thanking everyone in this beautiful cat community for being a part of this.
So, I mean, if what I was saying is, will you move that camera down just a little bit? If we don't, not all the way, like don't cut off my head.
So picky, this one.
If you don't hear a response, reach out a different way or another way, or reach out again, or you know, whatever it is. Tag
Sometimes
us,
we miss stuff, but we do try to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, or if your cat's going through something, if we can't help, we'll point you in the direction of someone who probably can help.
Yeah.
Because we really just care about babies.
We do.
We love the babies.
We do. So we're
happy,
super
healthy
excited.
babies.
So happy day, everybody, whatever day you're listening to this on the podcast. I hope that you have a blessed and beautiful day. And for all of you guys watching us on YouTube, thanks so much for joining us. We love you.
Hey,
100%.
Last question of the day, Marissa. We're going to sneak it in. Okay, quick. Raw eggs.
Yes.
Operation Superfood.
Eggs. Oh, we're gonna add in a little bit. As was saying back, eggs are one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. If your cat will eat a raw egg, our cats won't. We have to cook it. We scramble it.
We try it. And they won't.
So that's the cooked food they do eat.
Right.
But if they'll eat a raw egg, absolutely. I mean, vitamins, it's packed with like almost everything that the body needs. It's so healthy. So raw egg, absolutely.
There you go. Yes. There's a simple little tip to end our podcast on. You
guys.
So
we love you guys.
Thanks so much for joining
us, and we will see you next week.
Love y'all.
You.
Bye, guys.
Bye.